We are live. We are
Hello and welcome to Moreness-Culture. Good morning, Syl. How are you doing?
good morning, Beena. Good morning. I am most well. I am most well.
Done with
Good
all your
morning.
yes, thank you. Good mornings, and you are done with all your adjustments with because hopefully we are going to be live on Instagram and YouTube, of course on
Yes, we
Facebook.
are. We are.
Okay.
We are live.
Hello,
We are live
Grain. Hello,
everywhere.
Grain. Yes. And hello and
Live
welcome to
recording everywhere.
our Instagram viewers, whoever is going to watch us live. You are most welcome to join us. And on YouTube also, I will connect with you there also. Anyway, today's thought. Just before we were about to come live here, uh, Sil was busy doing something and I was here on Zoom and Sil said, sometimes it's a gesture. It is not needed. It is not something I was expecting. It's not usual. But you say, oh, Beena, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just busy. And it was like, because a few things are not part of our world, like feeling ignored. This is not part of my world and this is not part of Sil's world. We don't ask for attention. So yes, some people might try to ignore us, but this is their thing. They want to do that. Of course, they are free to do. But
No.
am I going to feel ignored? No, sorry, because this doesn't exist. This is not part of our mindset. This is not part of our being. Because yes, you might not be talking to me, but feeling ignored is a different thing. Yes, we are
It's
not busy in
insecurity.
conversation all the time. Okay, yes, because he is busy doing his work, I'm doing my own thing. Uh, we don't need that. The first thing for not feeling ignored for me is I'm not asking and looking for attention. First
And
thing.
this is why we're on comms together on
Yes,
we are
yes.
Zoom or
So it is
WhatsApp or whatever.
because the conversation is valuable. It is not for the sake of giving and taking attention. This
Exactly.
purpose is not existing in our conversation. So whenever we talk, it is, of course, it is fun. Sometimes we crack jokes and like, okay, share funny little things like children. Okay, this is what we do, and we laugh together. We share other things and we talk about other stuff, normal weather, and okay, what's going on, what you were eating, these type of things. But they are not for just to fulfill the formality or just following the convention. It is
Oh, they're
just
because we
come
really
all
are
this stuff.
interested.
Yeah, so it is yeah, we are interested, we want to share, we like to share, and that's the value. So when you're looking for, or someone, anyone who's looking for attention in any relationship or in any connectivity in any conversation, which means that there's no value in it, because their intent is not for the value. It's all just for
We have
attention. Yeah, you can get
we have
attention by
tons of
anything.
value in our conversations.
Yes, so for us, even the most trivial, well, everyday, usual, daily chores type of information and all that, even that is valuable, because when we share, uh,
Yes.
the first thing is that in our everyday life, there is nothing which we cannot share. First thing, this is most important, because you don't need any filters for that. And this is very, very energy efficient when you don't need filters. So we are not into anything which we cannot share. First thing. Second, when you are trying to live deliberately, then all the things are valuable. And then when you share your even just trivial little things, what you were doing, how you read, how you communicate with other people, you share that because, oh, I was deliberate. I was what value I got out of it. That's the main focus. Once you focus on value, all these nonsense that, oh, I was feeling ignored, you were not paying attention to me, you don't care about me, you don't love me, you don't respect me, these are completely non-existing things in our world.
Real
No,
value, not artificial value like, oh, I'm getting attention and people like me, and that's
exactly,
all
exactly.
insecurity things. Come on.
sometimes like for an hour, he is busy doing something, and okay, yes, and I'm doing something here and there, we chat, and that's it. We don't need that. He is communicating with other people, I'm doing something else. So what, we are working, and then that's it. And we enjoy that too, because there is no expectation, of
Wonderful.
course, but there is no stress. Yes, expectations of sensibility, expectation of impeccability, expectation of moreness is there, but there is no stress. If we are getting it,
Oh, yeah.
good. If not, then I'm going to create my own value. So that is something where I was just sharing, because these are the biggest benefit of way of impeccability. If you acquire peace of being, once you acquire that,
Oh, yeah.
all these nonsense will go out of window immediately. I don't need attention.
Right.
Yes, even when people try to ignore you, you will not going to buy that, and you say, okay, this is your
Right.
thing, do whatever you want to, I'm not going to feel ignored. This is what my area of influence is, myself. Am I going to buy this? No, sorry, I don't have time for this, I don't want to do this. So that was my thought of the day. So coming back to what we are going to do, because we are involved in very special reading, a capital R reading process of Don Juan's books, um,
Yeah.
by Carlos
Carlos who?
Castaneda.
Hey.
Yes, Castaneda. Yes, I was saying that. Yes, and we are reading about Carlos Castaneda's experience from of what Don Juans was teaching him, and it's a very interesting topic for me. Uh, Not only
So we're
because he's
interested in Don Juan and what Don Juan has to share.
yes, yes,
And we're interested in value, not in sensational experience.
yes, but yes, not only that these experiences are new, what he is sharing, but also that it is showing, and of course expressing the relationship between unconventional relationship between a teacher and I don't know what he was saying, that
A reluctant student,
yes,
apprentice. Yeah.
yes, apprentice, because
But he's a
Don
very
Juan was
reluctant apprentice. And in his
exactly
mind, he's still at least from a superiority paradigm point of view, he thinks himself a superior to Don Juan. He's the intellectual from sophisticated UCLA, blah, blah, blah. Right? And Don Juan is this primitive Indian. But that, you know, it takes him a long time to shift that, because it's not consciously there, but it's in the background, and it affects his behavior. But Don Juan does so many things that disrupt that. The very first time they met, he went blah blah. I know so much about peyote. He's trying to make himself all important, and Don Juan just looked at him with those eyes, those sober eyes that saw right through it, and it really bothered him. And as it with any BMA, any narcissist, right? They can't handle when you see through them, collapse their bubble. And they have to try and fix it and restore the image. They can't bear somebody to know the truth about them. Yeah. So Carlos got caught in this, and it's in a very peculiar problem. So we see a mourners paradigm, even though Don Juan doesn't call it that, but from our perspective in Moreness-Culture, we can clearly see the mourners paradigm that Don Juan operates under, not superiority paradigm, and Carlos coming from superiority paradigm, and how this really inhibits Carlos. He can't let it go. It's a very
yes,
big deal. So there's a lot going on. It's very profound. It's very profound.
exactly,
Quite
exactly,
magical in all that we see. Beena, I want to
yes,
also keep a more close eye on the comments. I missed some in our earlier on Facebook. I missed some, unless they were made afterward, which is possible.
mhm,
But I
mhm,
did miss them, and I don't want to miss people's comments. I want to keep an eye on the IG comments as well. So Diesel, dramatic sneak. Oh, Dramatics, New York City. Diesel, Dramatics, New York City has joined us. So, hey, Diesel. and Sid is there. Very good. Hello, Sid. Very good.
yes,
Very good. So, all right, brilliant. So, Diesel, we're about to get going, mate. We're about to get going. We just, we always share, but in the beginning, just to set the context. And also, it gives people time to catch up, right? You know, time
Yes.
to to join. So there's always a little bit in the beginning before we get going fully to enable that. Otherwise, you know, people come with you, right, and then you miss the start. And then, you know, it's nice to be get it right there at the beginning. All right. We're going to do screen share and we'll start. We'll continue our reading here.
Yes.
The file jumped and I think it went back to where we were yesterday. No. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. Screen share. There we go. Did we read this already? Saturday, 5 August. Later that morning after breakfast, the owner of the house, Don Juan, and I drove to Don Juan's place. Yeah, we did read this. I don't know why the file went back to that. But and we were here, we read this way with the two young men who were talking jovially, right? And he described, yeah, we did all this yesterday. So okay. I don't know why my file went back, didn't save the spot. We did this where he was complaining about the type of learning. Okay. This is where we left off, right? Think about the wonder of Mescalito playing. Think about nothing else. The rest will come to you of itself. And this is Don Juan saying, think of the anomalousness of this. It's an anomaly. Now, Don Juan doesn't use this terminology. This comes from me and my way of impeccability, which has a lot of overlap with Don Juan, but goes further. And especially when it comes to attunement, living in harmony with the world, the greater world, and paying attention to Don Juan calls them omens. And this omens is a very tricky word, but indications is a better word. Anomalies is a much better word. When things are truly anomalous, these are messages from the universe, messages from your deep subconscious, your higher self, etc. But when we pay attention to anomalies, everything changes, and you cannot ignore them. Once you're aware of it, like this, to Don Juan, this changes his whole reality. It's not something like, oh, you can take it or leave it. No, no. The fact that Mescalito played with Carlos, it changes how Don Juan behaves and acts. He cannot ignore it. He has to give it its appropriate measure of credence and viability and truth, and it changes. It's not something you can ignore. It's something that changes your life, changes your world. It's very, very powerful stuff, in other words. It's very important to understand this for Don Juan, because he doesn't use the words attunement and anomaly. And it would be greatly enhance what he does explain and what he does share if we were to use those terms. So our capital R reading is going to bring an extra perspective, extra vocabulary that will further elucidate and help connect this. Right? And this point of attunement and living in attunement, it's everything for Don Juan. Right? Most times like this, okay, somebody like Carlos, okay, Mescalito played with me. All right, you say it's important, but it doesn't necessarily for Carlos mean he has to change his life. For Don Juan, it does, right? Because it's an anomaly. All right, will you read, please, Beena? We'll just get rid of this. Yeah. There we go. I can slide this over and I can see the comments there.
Yes. Okay.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Okay,
So
you don't need to
yeah,
make it so big, because otherwise it will be all over their screen. I will make it for my end. So thank you so much.
oh
Because
no, this
okay,
works fine.
okay, okay.
See, it's perfect, and I can see comments if they comments on IG. Now,
Yes.
not everybody that joins comments. You see, like Diesel didn't comment, but I really like it when people do comment, then it shows, and then I can see that they've joined, and then I can welcome them. So when you comment, it lets me know a lot, right? And it makes a very big difference here. So let me just pull this up here. I have this. All right, never mind. Okay. So yeah, please comment. Please comment. Comments make a difference. They help a lot. They really do. All right, there we go. And let's continue. Beena, keep going.
Okay. Sunday, 20th August, 1961. Last night, Don Juan proceeded to usher me into the realm of his knowledge. We sat in front of his house in the dark. Suddenly, after a long silence, he began to talk. He said he was going to advise me with the same words his own benefactor had used the first day he took him as his apprentice. Don Juan had apparently memorized the words, for he repeated them several times to make sure I did not miss any. A man goes to knowledge as he goes to war, wide awake, with fear, with respect, and with absolute assurance. Going to knowledge or going to war in any other manner is a mistake, and whoever makes it will live to regret his steps.
All right, so I want to read that again. And this must go in our quote file.
Yes.
A man goes to knowledge as he goes to war, wide awake, with fear, with respect, and with absolute assurance. Going to knowledge or going to war in any other manner is a mistake. Whoever makes it will live to regret his steps. So going to knowledge, in other words, for Don Juan, is a very, very serious and sober business. Yeah? This is not something that you can play around with, right? Going to knowledge is very serious, very, very, very serious. So what we do also, and I recommend doing this with any book
Yes.
that you find very valuable. You see, I add this to this quote file, and I make columns for tagging it so that I can sort by the column. So later, when I have, Don Juan will have other comments that are relating to power or relating to perception. And then I can sort them all and see all the comments related to power or perception or Warrior's Way or dreaming or whatever all together. And that gives you a very different perception. Because throughout all the books, there's 14 of them, he talks about these different topics in different ways. It's very, very helpful. Right? And this is a very, very powerful quote here. Now, Warrior's Way, he hasn't talked about the Warrior's Way yet. He will later on. But this is a very cool quote. Yeah, Beena?
Yes, okay. Yes, it is profound. Just a reminder, sir, Elizabeth was asking you about your timings for the live. So if you...
Can you comment there?
No, I saw that before the live. So.
I didn't see that. Where did she ask this? In Messenger? It's a mess right now. They won't send us code and everything. It's like, come on, people, Yeah. I see. All right, here we go. Okay, let's take care of. All right, let's continue.
Yes, yes. I asked him why was it so, and he said that when a man has fulfilled those four requisites, there are no mistakes for which he will have to account. Under such conditions, his acts lose the blundering quality of a fool's act. If such a man fails or suffers a defeat, he will have lost only a battle, and there will be no pitiful regrets over that. Okay.
Now, actually, I want to add this to that.
Yes, I want to repeat that too. I asked him why was it so, and he said that when a man has fulfilled those four requisites, there are no mistakes for which he will have to account. Under such conditions, his act loses the blundering quality of a fool's act. If such a man fails or suffers a defeat, he will have lost only a battle, and there will be no pitiful regrets over that. Oh, yes. Yes.
Right.
Yes. It
So
does make sense.
this is very powerful, right?
Yes.
Very, very, very powerful. And I want to elaborate on this. This 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 is basically Don Juan is talking about the benefits of impeccability. Now, you might say, well, now what is impeccability? Don Juan talks about impeccability a lot, a huge amount. You're going to see later on, right? And he tells scholars that impeccability is the key. You have to be impeccable. Without being impeccable, you've got nothing, right? And where did I have that now? Oh, I guess it's underneath this. I had a thing where I wrote out all about impeccability, but it's gone missing now. It was right up there. Ah, dang it. What is this now? It's not underneath this. No. I had a very nice thing where I wrote out all about impeccability. You know, what we mean with impeccability. Somebody asked me, and I don't know where I have it now. I thought it was here. Here we go. Here we go. These quotes came in the wrong place. That's what's the deal. All right. So we look at, extended understandings of impeccability. Is there such a way to give a mini explanation of the word impeccable, impeccableness? Yes. Impeccability is best use of energy. Best use of energy. Very, very key. That Don Juan also says, right? Impeccability is giving due respect. Impeccability is uncompromising self-honesty. Impeccability is living with true integrity. Impeccability is making sure non-use of energy is not going to be a problem. Non-action, right? So you've got to pay attention. It's not just your actions that matter, but non-actions matter by way of opportunity cost. Yeah, very important. You might not be doing something bad, but that doesn't mean you're doing something useful and valuable, and that's furthering you, that's growing you, that's adding to you. Right? So, a very important point. Impeccability is doing more than enough to make to be sure we're covered, so you can have no regrets. Right? Do more than enough. Do more than enough. So this having no regrets is very important. And same thing here. Impeccability is being thorough, diligent, scrupulous, conscientious, etc. When you've been thorough and diligent and scrupulous and conscientious, and you're acting with integrity, and you're acting with uncompromising self-honesty, and you're giving due respect, and you're making best use of your energy, how can you have any regrets? You cannot. You did whatever you could at the time. You may still make a mistake completely. It may still be wrong because you were ignorant and you didn't know enough. But you did whatever you could at the time. You went past your current knowledge. You extended yourself, you grew. But that may still not be enough. Doesn't matter. When you've done everything and you've satisfied your conscience, that's why being conscientious, literally, you cannot have any regrets. Say, well, okay, sorry, world, I blew you up. I didn't know. I tried. I did my best in the situation. I did what I thought was right. And I didn't just guess at it. I researched it. I was diligent. I was thorough. I was scrupulous. Right? I didn't just say, oh, well, okay, I think this is the best thing to do. No. I know my thoughts aren't right. I know I don't know what's best. So I study, I learn, I research, I pay attention to anomalies, pay attention to the universe, etc. Now, typically, if you act in attunement, whatever mistakes you make tend to become fortuitous mistakes. And this is again taking what Don Juan says further. He doesn't have this concept anywhere, but it's very powerful, right? And when you're acting impeccably, it doesn't matter what you do; it will always turn out good. Right? Making sure one is unblameable, unfaultable by one's own conscience, by one's conscience. I guess I don't know. I mean, I'll put in own there, but it's redundant. But just so that I can emphasize. Right. Impeccability is acting so we cannot have any regrets. Yeah. If you act in such a way that you cannot have regrets ahead of time, to say, well, okay, I'm doing this, and if I make this decision, if I do this thing, is there a possibility of regret? But then don't do it. Simple as that. Right? Impeccability is doing what's right according to our own conscience, acting in accordance with our conscience. Yeah, very important. Doing everything we can and more to minimize foolishness. Applying all necessary effort required. Necessary effort. Another concept that it's implied by Don Juan, but not named, not mentioned. And this is something that I bring, that I add, this ability to name things. Yeah, and it's part of Way of Impeccability, my program Way of Impeccability, which is the Dictionary of Power. This is an incredible enhancement to everything, as you're going to see, right, as we go through this. That's actually something that we'll do in a moment. This Dictionary of Power is incredibly powerful, right? Right. So impeccability is applying all necessary effort required, and capital P, trusting, Nobelia trusting, impeccably, when we've done all this, that things will turn out good. So this capital T, trust, is an incredible extra enhancement, something that I also bring, right, part of the dictionary power. So the person who asked the question says, sort of unimpeachable, and the response to that is, in a way, yes, exactly. Unimpeachable by our own conscience, yes. And conscience demands impeccability, as a quote. Right? Go with it. Very powerful. So, Beena, what I want to
Yes.
do here is add another column in here.
Okay.
Insert column before and call this column Dictionary of Power. Okay? On DOP. Yeah? In other words, I want to, as things go here, right? I mean, many of these categories will be the Dictionary of Power term. Yeah, but sometimes maybe not, right? So in the case of these last two quotes now, the Dictionary of Power term for this is impeccability, right?
Yes.
And again, I mean, power obviously would go into Dictionary of Power too, but not all terms work so much. But this is really potent here when we see this in the context of impeccability. Don Juan doesn't say it yet, but it's early days, right? It's early days. This very potent stuff, very potent stuff. Wonderful. All right. So now also he says, then he said he intended to teach me about an ally in the very same way his own benefactor taught. He put strong emphasis on the words, very same way, repeating the phrase several times. Now, before we go further with this, I just want to say, Carlos gets this word ally, this term ally, mixed up, right? And he doesn't make it very clear. Because Don Juan talks about the ally in different ways, and the different allies. So be warned now already that as we go further, Carlos gets this quite mixed up, and they're different allies. They're the allies contained in the power plants, and then there are allies which are inorganic beings. There's a whole other thing entirely, right? In other words, they literally are different beings to what we are used to perceiving. They're inorganic beings. Right? They're not the same as us, but they're still beings. And that's a whole different category of ally. Plus, Mescalito isn't an ally, he's a teacher. So even though he's part of the power plants, right, he uses the three of them, the mushroom and Jimson weed and peyote, right, as the essential plant itself, right? But the mushroom he smokes, and it's a very different ally to what comes from Jimson weed. Right? So it gets complicated, but we aren't particularly interested in that. Why? Because it's not something we can duplicate. There's no value to us in it, in other words. Right? I don't have all Don Juan there to help me prepare the thing. It's a very elaborate preparations, everything involved. And also, you need to be with somebody who have that energy of Don Juan's there to affect matters. This is not available to us. So therefore, all of that is not something that we're interested in. Now, I know this was what made the books popular, and probably today still, it's what makes them popular. But no, it's not for us. What we are interested in is this previous type of thing, right? Where this is a man goes to knowledge, or a person. See, I changed this quote. I don't say a man, I say a person. A person goes to knowledge as they go to war, wide awake, with fear, with respect, with absolute assurance. Now, I've somewhere along the line, I've got a video and I've got a detail going into this. It's in Way of Impeccability, actually. I use this quote. Yes, wide awake is obvious. Why fear? And I explain why fear. Respect is somewhat obvious too. But what do you mean by respect? People don't quite understand respect, especially you see like in gangsters, right? Uh, they all, gang members, oh, you disrespecting me, you dissing me and all that. But they want respect just because of what? Because you're in a gang, because you're a criminal, because you're a hooligan, because your self-importance says it? No, I can't respect that. So respect is something that has to be earned, not demanded. There's an old expression that says respect has to be commanded, not demanded. So mostly in the world, in the superiority paradigm context, when people demand respect, you can't demand respect. You have to earn it. If you are being respected, that's on you, right? Typically, right? So, and then of course, with absolute assurance. Now, absolute assurance doesn't mean false confidence. Absolute assurance here is capital T trust. Now, in Way of Impeccability, there's an entire session, actually two of them, that deal with capital T trust. Capital T trust is a major, major, major conception, right? It is huge. As a matter of fact, I can add this as in the dictionary of power here, right? So capital T trust is taking this, what Don Juan says here, the combination of all of this, of being wide awake and fear and respect and absolute assurance. You put it all together, you end up with capital T trust. But be sure to understand what capital T trust is. It's based on a foundation of impeccability, right? And it's a big explanation, which I'm not going to do now, but over time, as we go through it, we'll get there, right? There'll be many more instances where capital T trust comes up. But capital T trust essentially is first being impeccable. And in other words, doing everything that you possibly can. When you've done everything that you possibly can, it's only one thing left to do. And that is to really absolutely trust that things will work out. Yeah. But you've already done. You can't trust that things will work out without having done everything that you can possibly do. And when you do everything that you can possibly do, to use Don Juan's term, or words, he says you minimize the chances of the unforeseen happening. Minimize. But you have to trust. You have nothing else. And that trust then becomes a power. That's why it's capital T trust. When you trust fully and it's based on a bedrock, a foundation of impeccability, right? Now your trust is based on something real. It's not empty. It's not hopefulness. It's not a wish. It's not a bail me out universe. No. It is understanding the rightness of what you've done and understanding your impeccability in itself as power. I don't think I've ever said it in that particular way. You were talking about capital T trust, right, Beena?
Yes.
You're trusting that your impeccability has power. And it does. Yes. Because your impeccability is also an intent. And when you have capital T trust, you have set an intent with your actions, your impeccable actions. And that intent that you set, this is what you trust. And intent is something that involves the universe. It's not only with you. Yes, will would be when it's just your personal, your localized, you only. That's will. But intent involves the universe. And so this is very potent because these are very potent terms that later on Don Juan talks a lot about intent. But again, there's more that can be done by way of elucidation. This is my skill. I regard myself as an elucidator, not because I'm clever or smart, but because I think things through to the end. And I apply perspective shifting to multiple perspectives. It's just work. I just apply the work. And that makes me able to get to this, right? It doesn't make me special anyway or anything like that. No, just work. Just work. All right. So let's continue reading.
Yes. Then he said he intended to teach me about an ally in the very same way his own benefactor had taught him. He put strong emphasis on the words very same way, repeating the phrase several times. An ally, he said, is a power a man can bring into his life to help him. What? An ally is a power a man can bring into his life to help him, advise him, and give him the strength necessary to perform act, whether big or small, right or wrong. This ally is necessary to enhance a man's life, guide his acts, and further his knowledge. In fact, an ally is the indispensable aid to knowing. Don Juan said this with great conviction and force. He seemed to choose his words carefully. He repeated the following sentence 4 times. An ally will make you see and understand things about which no human being could possibly enlighten you.
All right, so I'm going to take this and put it in as a quote under allies, right?
Yes,
just so that we have
but
this.
man can bring. This is different.
No.
You can bring an ally into your life.
How do you mean?
Like he's saying that.
Yeah.
An ally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see as this goes on what Don Juan means by this. Now, again, remember I cautioned you about absolute statements from Don Juan. This seems to be like very absolute, but as we're going to go see later on, it's not absolutely necessary. Yeah? Yes, this is true, but it's not. Doesn't mean that you can't get to where you're going without allies. At least as I understand it.
No, it's not about like we cannot or can. I'm asking that one can bring an ally in their life. This is what
Yes,
Don Juan is
yes,
saying.
yes, yeah.
Like it's a deliberate act or it's an intended act.
Correct. Well, you'll see later on and how you bring an ally into it. Yes. He says it here, is a power a man can bring into his life to help him. So yes, Peter, it's something you bring here. You connect to, you take steps to to entice an ally, to connect to an ally, to bring forth an ally. Because this allies is it's a very broad topic, and Carlos confuses it. He doesn't understand it's an overview, abstract concept. So he doesn't quite get it, and he gets a lot of stuff muddled. But we'll see. We'll sort it as we go through it. We'll sort it as we go through it.
Okay. I'm reading from again the sentence. An ally will make you see and understand things about which no human being could possibly enlighten you. Is an ally something like a guardian spirit? It is neither a guardian nor a spirit. It is an aid. Is Mescalito your ally? No.
No.
Mescalito is yes. No. Mescalito is another kind of power, a unique power, a protector, a teacher. What makes Mescalito different from an ally? He can't be tamed and used as an ally is tamed and used. Mescalito is outside oneself. He chooses to show himself in many forms to whoever stands in front of him, regardless of whether that person is a brujo or a farm boy. Don Juan spoke with deep fervor about Mescalito's being the teacher of the proper way to live. I asked him how Mescalito taught the proper way of life, and Don Juan replied that Mescalito showed how to live. How does he show it? I asked. He has many ways of showing it. Sometimes he shows it on his hand, or on the rocks, or the trees, or just in front of you. Is it like a picture in front of you? No, it is a teaching in front of you. Does Mescalito talk to the person? Yes, but not in words. How does he talk then? He talks differently to everyone.
All right,
I
so
felt
let's just
like,
stop here a bit. Let's just
yes,
add a greater context.
yes.
Because this is also not something that is elucidated well. In other words, Mescalito, like the world at large, talks
So is someone
via
calling you?
no,
I'm hearing some ringtone or something. Okay,
not me.
okay, please continue.
Oh. So Mescalito, the universe, allies, these powers, many of them talk symbolically through abstract conceptualization. It's represented somewhat visually, but as we're going to see later on in the experiences, it's visceral as well, right? It's not
Hmm.
just visual, but it is symbolic. It is a different language. It is the language of direct meaning. Yes, words are attached to the meaning, right? They symbolize, they represent meaning. They're not the meaning itself. But we're going to see how Mescalito specifically talks directly and shares the meaning directly. It's very profound. It's really, really profound. But we have to understand it is a symbolic communication. But again, yes, symbols represent things, but it's direct symbolism. Right? So, in other words, instead of showing a symbol for fear, it'll make you feel afraid. See? And show you something that produces fear. See what I mean?
Hmm.
It's a
Yes.
very direct symbolic communication. But when we understand this, that everything is not via language, language is, how can I say, yes, each word is in a sense a symbol, but it's taking a more visual connectivity to symbols. And there's a very different way of approaching it. It's more right brain than left brain, if you want to take it that way. And it's very potent, very, very potent to understand, but very useful also and very important to understand that some symbolism and understanding abstract conceptionality via symbols. This is essential for understanding Don Juan and Don Juan's world. Essential. It's what the Dictionary of Power is all about. Okay? Very potent.
Yes. I felt my questions were annoying him. I did not ask any more. He went on explaining that there were no exact steps to knowing Mescalito. Therefore, no one could teach about him except Mescalito himself. The quality made him a unique power. This quality made him a unique power. He was not the same for every man. On the other hand,
Individual.
sorry?
It's individual. It's much like attunement and anomalies. That's why omens and this idea that if this happens, this whenever the owl hoots at dawn 3 times, it means this nonsense. Absolute nonsense. It may happen coincidentally to be the same, but no, that's what it meant for you. It doesn't mean it for everybody. Of course, you're going to find yourself in the same situation and you may get the same message. So then there'll be overlap, yes. But just because it sometimes overlaps doesn't mean it's going to always overlap. It's a flaw in the thinking with omens. So we have to be very careful of this. And this is the point of Mescalito. That is not the same for every person.
On the other hand, the acquiring of an ally required, Don Juan said, the most precise teaching and the following of stages or steps without a single deviation. There are many such ally powers in the world, he said, but he was familiar with only two of them, and he was going to lead me to them and their secrets. But it was up to me to choose one of them, for I could have only one. His benefactor's ally was in La Hierba del Diablo, La Hierba del Diablo, Devil's Weed. he said. But he personally did not like it, even though his benefactor had taught him its secrets. His own ally was in the hamito, the little smoke, he said, but he did not elaborate on the nature of the smoke. I
Okay,
asked
so
him
here
about,
he says, here he says,
no, no,
right, that
yeah,
two, right, uh, that he was familiar with only two of them. But later
yes,
on, he talks about these inorganic beings which are allies, and
okay,
they aren't. They have nothing to do with devil's weed or the little smoke. Right? Nothing to do with that. Right? These are plants, or right, fungus. But compared to the other allies, which is something else entirely. But he still uses the term ally, and it really is confusing a bit. And of course, Carlos never makes this distinction to sort this out, right? So just have to be aware, right? It's not just
yeah,
two; there are other kinds of allies. But when it comes to plants, these are like, I don't know. It's hard to reconcile the communication here. It's a little bit not so clear. Anyway, just a tip for the future.
yeah. I asked him about it. He remained quiet. After a long pause, I asked him, what kind of a power is an ally? It is an aid, I have already told you. How does it aid? An ally is a power capable of carrying a human beyond the boundaries of himself. This is how an ally can reveal matters no human being could. But Mescalito also takes you out of the boundaries of yourself. Doesn't that make him an ally? No. Mescalito takes you out of yourself to teach you. An ally takes you out to give you power. I asked him to explain this point to me in more detail or to describe the difference in effect between the two. He looked at me for a long time and laughed. He said that learning through conversation was not only a waste, but a stupidity, because learning was the most difficult task a man could undertake. He asked me to remember the time I had tried to find my spot and how I wanted to find it out without doing any work, because I had expected him to hand out all the information.
Yep, yep.
Uh, where it was okay. If he had done so, he said, I would never have learned, but knowing how difficult it was to find my spot, and above all, knowing confidence. He said that while I remained rooted to my good spot, nothing could cause me bodily harm because I had the assurance that at that particular spot, I was at my very best. I had the power. I had the power to shove off anything that might be harmful to me. If, however, he had told me there it was, I would never have had the confidence needed to claim it is it as true knowledge. Thus, knowledge was indeed power. Oh,
Without
okay.
application, it's all meaningless. Application is the
Yes.
doing, the doing, the applying.
Don Juan said that every time a man sets himself to learn, he has to labor as hard as I did to find that spot, and the limits of his learning are determined by his own nature. Thus, we saw no point in talking about knowledge. He said that certain kinds of knowledge were too powerful for the strength I had, and to talk about them would only bring harm to me. He apparently felt there was nothing else he wanted to say. He got up and walked towards his house. I told him the situation overwhelmed me. It was not what I had
It was not what I had conceived or wanted it to be. You both there.
received
I'm not hearing
or
you, Beena.
wanted
You're
to
breaking up.
be. He said that fears are natural, that all of us experience them, and there is nothing we can do about it. It's more terrible.
All right, let me read this last paragraph again because you're breaking up and it missed some of it. He said that fears are natural,
Like,
that all of us experience them and there's nothing we can do about it. But on the other hand,
oh,
no matter
sorry,
how
I was
frightening
reading.
learning is, it is more terrible to think of a man without an ally or without knowledge. Yeah, sorry, Beena dropped off. She'll come back now. She'll come back. So this very potent what Don Juan is saying here. Yeah. But on the other hand, no matter how frightening learning is, it is more terrible to think of a man without an ally or without knowledge. Yes. And this is the point of Way-Of-Impeccability. It doesn't deal with allies because, we don't have access to that. Way-Of-Impeccability is about doing whatever you can on your own without needing to have external things like allies, which basically depend on other people. Yeah, or depend on history, accumulation of learning. Right? You don't always have access to that. Let's add that to the code file while we wait for Beena. Page are we on? 20. Oh, oh. All right. I think I'm going to end the live here because it's kind of time anyway, and Venus not coming back right away. Her connection may have dropped. So I'll just stop it. I'll just stop right here. And let me just check on IG, see if there's any more. Norma says, but what are we trusting? Beena, you are trusting in your own actions. You're trusting in your impeccability. You are trusting that things will turn out good. That's what you're trusting. Right? You are just trusting that the world is right and good. Why? Because you've been impeccable. You don't have to worry about anything. Trusting in life. You're trusting in impeccability. That's what you're trusting in. I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, very cool. All right. Wonderful, wonderful. I'm glad you're here, Norma. I'm glad you're here, Norma. I'm glad you're here, Norma. Wonderful, 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 wonderful. Very cool, very cool. So I got some more messages here. I'm just hoping Beena comes back. Yeah. Very good. All right, so I have to go. I have to go. All right, and we'll end it right there. So thank you, everybody, and be sure, as Beena said, to click like and share and make a comment. Why? Because it trains your algorithm. We're going to train your algorithm for more things that relate to Moreness culture, more things that are outside of the usual, more things that are different, more things that are potent, more things that are powerful, more things that are meaningful, more things that are valuable. Yes? Yeah. Yeah. All right. All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. See you.